This is a dramatized story inspired by real debt situations. For educational and entertainment purposes only. Not legal or financial advice.
$78,000 in debt, no job, and a mortgage due in 11 days. That was my life at 43. My name is Marcus. I was a construction project manager in Phoenix, Arizona. I had a salary, a house, 2 kids in middle school, and a wife who trusted me completely. I thought I had built something solid. I thought the foundation was strong. I was wrong. Let me take you back to a Tuesday morning in March. I walked into the site office the same way I had for 11 years, coffee in hand, hard hat on the hook, and my supervisor was standing there with someone from HR I had never seen before. They handed me a folder. Inside was a termination letter and a COBRA health insurance form. That was it. 11 years. Gone in 4 minutes. I sat in my truck for 45 minutes before I could drive. I kept thinking, I have to tell Dana. I have to go home and tell my wife that everything we planned just fell apart. But I didn't. Not that day. Here is what our finances actually looked like the moment I lost that job. Mortgage, $1,840 a month. We had 14 years left on a 30-year fixed. 2 car payments, my truck at $487 a month, Dana's SUV at $391. Credit card number 1, a Chase card we had used for home repairs after a pipe burst in 2021. $1,840 balance, minimum payment $430. Credit card number 2, a Capital One card. I'd quietly been using for work expenses. My company was slow to reimburse. $11,200 balance, minimum payment $260. Credit card number 3, a store card that started at 0% and then didn't. $6,800 balance. A personal loan I took out when Dana's mother had a medical emergency 2 years prior. $9,500 remaining. And student loans, both mine and Dana's combined, still hovering at $31,600 after years of income-driven repayment that barely touched the principal. Total, $78,000 in consumer and installment debt. Not counting the mortgage, I was bringing home $5,200 a month after taxes. Every single dollar of it was spoken for before it landed in the account. There was nothing extra. There was no cushion. There was a checking account that looked fine on the 15th and looked terrifying on the 28th. And now the paychecks were gone. I spent the first week pretending. I told Dana I was working from home temporarily while the company restructured. I set my alarm the same time. I got dressed. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open and applied for jobs while she thought I was on site calls. I filed for unemployment. Arizona approved me for $840 a week. That sounds like something until you realize our fixed monthly obligations alone were over $4,200 before groceries, utilities, gas, or anything the kids needed. I started using the credit cards for everyday expenses, groceries, gas, the electric bill. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I would pay it all back the moment I landed something new. That is what I told myself every single week for 3 months. By week 6, the collection calls started on the personal loan. I had missed 1 payment, then 2. I watched the number on my phone, unknown area codes from Kentucky, from Texas, from Nevada, and I let them go to voicemail. I didn't listen to the voicemails. By month 2, my FICO score had dropped 94 points. I found out because I tried to apply for a balance transfer card to buy myself some breathing room, and the application came back denied. The reason? Too many recent delinquencies. That was the moment I understood the trap. I needed credit to survive the crisis, and the crisis had destroyed my credit. I finally told Dana on a Sunday night in May. The kids were in bed. She was reading on the couch. I sat down across from her and I said, I have to tell you something and I need you to let me finish before you say anything. I told her everything, the termination, the 3 months of pretending, the credit card charges, the missed loan payment, the collection calls, the denied balance transfer. All of it. She didn't yell. That almost made it worse. She just sat very still and looked at me like she was calculating something. Then she said, "How long did you think you could hide this?" I didn't have an answer. She slept in the guest room that night, and the night after that. The next 2 months were the hardest of my life, not just financially, emotionally. Dana and I were barely speaking. The kids could feel the tension even if they didn't understand it. My oldest, he's 13, started asking if we were going to lose the house. I told him no. I didn't know if I was telling the truth. The mortgage company sent a notice of late payment in June. We were 30 days past due. I called them and went through the worst phone hold music of my existence for 40 minutes, then explained the situation to someone named Trevor, who read from a script and offered me a 1-month forbearance while noting it would be reported to the credit bureaus. I took it. I had no other option. Then I made my first real mistake. I found an ad online for a payday loan service. $1,500 instantly deposited, no credit check. I told myself it was just to cover the car insurance payment so we didn't lose coverage. I submitted the application at 11 at night, approved in 8 minutes. The fee was $225. The full $1,725 was due in 2 weeks. I didn't have $1,725 in 2 weeks, so I rolled it over. Another fee. Then I took out a second payday loan to cover part of the first. Within 6 weeks, I had paid nearly $900 in fees and still owed the original principal. I also raided my 401k. I withdrew $8,000, which after the 10% early withdrawal penalty and federal income tax withholding put about $5,400 in my account. I used it to make 2 mortgage payments and pay down 1 credit card. The 401k withdrawal also meant I had a tax liability coming the following April that I had not planned for. I was digging, but I was digging down. In August, 5 months after the pink slip, Dana found a nonprofit credit counseling agency listed on the NFCC website, the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. She made the appointment herself and told me we were going together. I remember sitting in that waiting room thinking this was humiliating. I was a project manager. I managed budgets in the millions. I had supervised 40-person crews. And here I was in a beige waiting room about to tell a stranger that I couldn't make my minimum payments. The counselor's name was Patricia. She was calm and she was not judgmental. She pulled up a yellow legal pad and asked me to list every single debt, every interest rate, every minimum payment. She didn't wince. She didn't sigh. She wrote it all down. When we were done, she said, "You're not the first person who sat in this chair and you won't be the last. Let's figure out what your real options are." She walked us through 4 paths. The first was a debt management plan through the agency. They would negotiate lower interest rates with our creditors, sometimes down to 6 or 7%, and we would make 1 consolidated monthly payment to the agency, which would distribute it. It doesn't reduce the principal, but it stops the interest from compounding so fast. It typically takes 3 to 5 years. It does affect your ability to open new credit during that time. The second option was debt settlement, negotiating lump sum payoffs for less than what's owed. The risk she was clear about. It destroys your credit score. The forgiven debt is often taxable income, and many debt settlement companies charge heavy fees. She told us to consult a licensed professional before pursuing any settlement option because the industry has a lot of bad actors. The third option was Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Because we had lost significant income, we might qualify under the means test. Chapter 7 can discharge most unsecured debt, credit cards, personal loans, within 3 to 6 months. It stays on your credit report for 10 years. It would not eliminate the student loans under current federal law. And we would need to speak with a bankruptcy attorney to evaluate whether we actually qualified. The fourth option was Chapter 13 bankruptcy, a reorganization plan rather than a liquidation. You keep your assets, including your home, and you repay a structured portion of your debts over 3 to 5 years under court supervision. Chapter 13 can also pause foreclosure proceedings, which was critically relevant to our situation. It stays on your credit report for 7 years. Patricia said, Consult a licensed bankruptcy attorney before making any decision. Many offer free initial consultations. What works for one family may be the wrong choice for another. Dana and I talked that night for 3 hours. Real talking. Not arguing, not blaming. Talking. We met with a bankruptcy attorney the following week. He reviewed our income, our assets, our debt load, our mortgage status. He said we were candidates for Chapter 13 because we had a home we wanted to protect and because my unemployment income, while low, disqualified us from Chapter 7 under the means test in our state. Though he said that calculation was close and could shift once I was employed again. He recommended we file Chapter 13, propose a 5-year repayment plan, and use the automatic stay, the legal protection that stops all collection actions, including foreclosure, to halt the pressure immediately while we restructured. We filed in September. The collection calls stopped. The foreclosure notice that had arrived the week before was paused by law. For the first time in 6 months, I slept a full night. I want to be honest about where I am now because this story doesn't have a perfect ending. It has a real one. In October, I was hired as a senior estimator for a commercial contractor. Slightly less than my old salary, but stable. Benefits. Health insurance that meant I could cancel the COBRA I had been quietly letting lapse. Our Chapter 13 plan was confirmed by the court. We make 1 monthly payment to the trustee. The mortgage is current. The collection agency calls are gone by law. My FICO score was 541 when we filed. It's not going to bounce back overnight. But Patricia told us that consistent on-time payments during the plan, combined with the stability of the repayment structure, often help scores begin recovering within 12 to 18 months. Dana and I are okay. Not perfect, but okay. She said the hardest part wasn't the debt. It was the silence, the hiding, the months I spent managing a crisis alone instead of with her. She was right. That's the thing I wish someone had told me before any of this. The shame of financial crisis is what makes it worse. The debt is a math problem. The hiding is what breaks everything else. If you are in a situation that feels like mine, the calls, the missed payments, the credit score in free fall, the secret you're carrying, I want you to hear this. There are structured, legal options that exist specifically for people in this position. Chapter 7. Chapter 13. Credit counseling, debt management plans. None of them are magic. All of them have consequences you need to understand, but they are real. And you do not have to figure it out alone. Find a nonprofit credit counseling agency through the NFCC. Get a free consultation with a licensed bankruptcy attorney. Talk to someone before you take out another payday loan or drain another retirement account. And if you are hiding this from your partner the way I hid it from Dana, please, just tell them, tonight. It is so much heavier alone than it is together. Get the free debt checklist linked in the description. It covers the questions you need to ask before you choose any debt relief option. Link is right below this video.